Today, what we're going to talk about is a request that we got last week, and that was honey. So, honey is actually worth the money. Okay, and if you're interested to know little more about what honey can do for you, stay on, and we'll run through this very, very quickly. Now, we might like to know how honey is produced. Most of us know that the bees go flying around and invade all the flowers and grab the nectar. Okay, and you see a variety of bees, all shapes and sizes, and all fancy colors. Now, when they actually ingest the nectar from the flowers and they go back to the honeycomb or the hive and they store it there. Now, the honeycomb has, because of its design, okay, and because the flapping wings of the bee, the honey starts to get a little concentrated, starts to evaporate, so lose a lot of its water. So a lot of the water content actually starts to move out from that, and the nectar has quite a lot of water, and that starts to dissipate, and it gets thicker and it gets more viscous. So you've got a more concentrated version, which really becomes honey. Now, uh, people who harvest honey, what they do is they put it in a kind of a cylindrical machine, and the the bees create the combs inside that. And what happens is these trays are removed and the caps are burst. Okay, because even though the honeycomb is there, the faces have a kind of a cap so that the honey doesn't flow out. So that is burst, with a pin or something, and they put it through a centrifuge or they just spin it. And what happens is all that honey flies out. Okay, and then later what they do is they just simply filter it with a mesh. So that all the wax and all those things that are there. Sometimes sometimes you'll get a honey bee itself. Okay, some of them just conk out over there, and they they become part of the stuff that falls through. So it's good to strain it, and the flavor of that particular honey will and the color will depend on which flower the bee has taken it out from. Okay, so you get various kinds of colors of honey. Some are lighter and some are darker, and really depends on the kinds of flowers that are around. Now, some manufacturing companies actually breed bees in a meadow of a particular flower, and they'll tell you which flower the meadow is, and these are kind of like what you call specialist honey that you get. Okay, so they're a little more expensive, of course, rather than general honey, because sometimes what people do is there are some honeycombs that grow in the wild and people cut them down and they come and sell it to you. Okay. So you may not be in control of what that flavor is. But you do get honeys that are professionally cultured, and you'll get a particular flower that the bee has consumed. And the flavors slightly vary and the colors slightly vary, and it's a kind of a good taste. Okay. Now, if you want to find out how whether your honey is real, okay, what you can do is you can take about a tablespoon of honey and put it into just a silver, a small steel plate. Just drop it in there and put a little bit of water on top of it. And what you do is you just shake it. Okay, just keep shaking it, like whirl it a bit. And after some time, what will happen is you'll start seeing these lines appearing. And guess what? It looks very much like a honeycomb. So it's kind of amazing that the geometry of the honeycomb and the geometry of the honey structure is very, very similar. And well, nature has a way of, so this is one very good way to find out how good your honey is. And if it's just sugar water, then you won't get this structure at all. So you can see the structure out here, uh, kind of, very close to, not exactly a perfect honeycomb, but you can see it's forming those kind of squares and pentagons. It's a little irregular, but this is what happens when you shake it. So this is one very, very good way to test your honey. And a lot of ways you can find out is that if the honey is not really, it's been adulterated with sugar, you'll actually find that when you put it in water, it just kind of dissipates very quickly. It just dissolves very, very quickly. Typically, pure honey will take a lot more work for you to dissolve it. Okay, so it doesn't penetrate so easily. Now, you've got to be very careful because a lot of commercial honeys dump a lot of sucrose or fructose or all kinds of things in that to kind of give you the sweetness. And so a lot of honeys are adulterated. And of course, the government keeps checking, and people have been caught. They've actually some of the biggest brands that you might have heard of in the world and even in our own country have been actually caught adulterating it with this because they've not taken extremely serious action because what they've dumped it, they have not dumped it with a harmful chemical. They've dumped it with things that are generally found in other consumer products. So it's not that bad, but then you can't claim it to be 100% honey or pure honey or anything like that. Okay, you have to mention it very carefully. But so you got to be very careful about where you pick up your honey from. And if you know somebody who does cultivation of honey by themselves, and they might have a small industry, that somebody can go and meet or find out. Do a little bit of research. You'll find that certain honeys are absolutely 100%. They swear by it, and you can do this test. Okay, the honey test. The other thing is that if you keep honey, stagnant for long, if there's a lot of crystalline content that comes at the bottom, then you typically know that there's quite a lot of sugar in it. And sometimes that might be natural or not. But natural honey will not have so much of settling of sugar crystals at the bottom and it will take longer for it to happen rather than if something has been adulterated with some kind of sweetener. Okay. So what are the big benefits of this? Now, this is something which is a lot of people don't know, and it helps accelerate protein entering the muscle. It's an extremely important part, acts as a catalyst for the protein to get its penetration into the muscle. Okay. And yes, of course, because it contains a lot of components inside the honey help promote the absorption of protein into the muscle. So this is something natural that you can take, and a lot of athletes typically after a workout will definitely have they try to indulge in a little honey. So it's a good thing to have, but you must remember that it is sweet and there are a lot of sugars in it. And even if you're somebody who's high on sugar or type 2 diabetic, uh, do this in extreme moderation. Okay, it is still sweet and it will definitely spike your sugar whenever that is. So even if you're taking honey, make sure you're taking it after your meal. Okay. Now you can cure a cough and a sore throat with honey. And how do you do that? A very effective way to do this is take kalonji seed, which is black cumin, and roast it a bit for about 5-10 minutes. And if you can powder it, great. Otherwise, just roast the kalonji seed and lace it with honey and swallow it. It's a fantastic cure for if you have an irritating cough. This is something that you can take, and this combination itself is helps you fight a lot of bacteria in the body. So this is something that you can have as a homemade kind of a concoction, and really works. Okay. Now it also helps heal wounds. So if you get a wound, uh, or a cut, it's a good thing to just apply a little honey on it. Okay, and they have actually in a lot of earlier times they have used honey on bandages to help after surgery and things when nothing else is available. It's something that helps cure. So because it's antibacterial, it really helps, and it also helps because of the mineral content. It also helps improve the healing. Now, if you have dandruff, honey is a good thing to put on your scalp. Yeah, it will help reduce the scaling on you and probably cut down a lot of your dandruff. Now, it's also good for digestion. And in case you're constipated of a hard stool, just add a little apple cider vinegar with it. Mix it with honey. Make a little, kind of a little tea out of it. Don't have to heat it up. Just room temperature, and drink it down. Okay, so this will probably help in case you have trouble passing motion. There are many other remedies for this, but this is just one thing you do. And if you're just a little queasy, uneasy, you can also take this with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Now, just remember this is very rich in antioxidants. So, a little bit of it within moderation and whatever you think is a permissible limit for you to have, especially if you don't have sugar tolerance, then take a little bit of it. We can dilute with water so that it slows down the concentration, but it's rich in antioxidants. Now, if you put a drop of apple cider vinegar in a tablespoon of water and you mix it with honey, okay, you know, probably half a teaspoon of honey mixed with that so that you get a kind of a good liquid with apple cider vinegar. And if you put this on and in the night and you rub it across wherever you might have a scar, what it'll do is over a period of time, the scar will start to fade and it'll start to reduce. So this is something that you can also use as a trick up your sleeve. So keep a little bit of honey around, and I know it might be very tempting to have it like juice, but be careful. You know, all you're talking about is half a teaspoon, 1 teaspoon. That's kind of where you should be at a day, and that's if you're not having any other sweetener or anything else sweet. Okay. So typically, if you have this after a meal, it's great. If you have a slightly upset stomach, it's good to dilute with apple cider vinegar and mix it around and have it as a laxative. It will also kind of help you control a little bit of acidity as well. So, honey is something you should keep around. Don't buy liters of it. Just keep a little bits because only occasionally you'll pull out a spoon of this. Uh, try not to have this again. Like I said, honey, don't have it on an empty stomach. It is not great because the sugar will spike. Okay, anything sweet is where your insulin will go up. So there is absolutely no difference between anything. Anything that is sweet, the body will automatically trigger. So remember to be careful that you are staying within your boundaries of your sugar. And of course, you can always have this after a workout. It's a great thing to have because the body will demand a little bit of sugar and be able to burn it. And it also helps you bring in the protein into your muscle. So, like I tell everyone, that if you have a balanced diet or you have the right nutrients going into your body, the right amount of protein, the right amount of fluids also to balance that out, what happens is that's when your body will start to make its shape. Its muscle will start to get better, your skin will start to get better, and things like that. So, why I tell people that don't take things in isolation because just honey by itself is not going to be a miracle unless you have the other components in your diet and in your food and in your exercise regime all there. Only then these things are going to really help. Now, if you just try to do these things in isolation, they don't work. And most of the time, and I kind of tell people that you'll see a lot of these things take this one thing, take this one thing, take this one thing. No, there is a combination. And for those of you who have watched this video, if you'd like to know more uh, and laugh all the way for the rest of your life, the jolly life is to follow the dynamic vitality model. And people who follow the dynamic vitality model and have a regime that they follow and they continue it for the rest of their life, I guess it it is not monotonous. It is something that you can keep redefining, you can keep changing it. In fact, uh, something like this, you should not have the same thing every day. It has to be a mix of everything. And so that variety, along with a lot of components that you can add in, as you see in a lot of my videos, uh, you need to have that base structure. If we don't have that base components in your system, nothing is going to work. So nothing works in isolation. There is a big orchestration of the components that you need to put into your body. The kind of lifestyle not exactly lifestyle, but the schedule that you follow. And that schedule can vary from person to person because it depends on the kind of job you have. It depends on how much you travel. I mean, it can factor in many things. But once you've set a particular schedule for your type of life, and you've got yourself with the right nutrients, the right components that your body needs, then a lot of these additional things will work for you. So if you found this topic interesting, don't forget to comment and stay tuned for more videos as we go ahead.